If I want to know how to fix my dishwasher, I go on YouTube. If I want to know how to
murder someone and then throw it with a knife,
I'll probably also use YouTube, but go incognito mode.
Shots fired. All units, please respond.
Have you ever seen anyone punch so hard that they shit themselves?
I am the most complete fighter in the world.
You can call it the art of fighting without fighting.
Stick around. Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Dodge this.
Ho, 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 my goodness. It's Dodge This Action Movies Unleashed, Season 3, Episode 6. And let me tell you, it is a very special episode for a number of reasons. Not least, it being the most wonderful time of the year. It's our Christmas special. Should have probably told our guest that, so we could have made it a bit more Christmassy. Doesn't matter. But the main exciting thing is I am sitting in the same room as our guest, sat opposite him in what some people might describe as a podcast studio. We'll see how it sounds afterwards. He is a returning guest. We are going to be talking about the Roundup No Way Out, and it seemed apt that in order to talk about the sequel to a movie that we spoke about, I want to say last year, I would get back the returning champ who featured on that episode to speak about the sequel to that movie. His name is Joe Roberts. Hello, Joe.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me back. Welcome to my sound grotto.
Really, this is in the whole life of this podcast, I've never actually sat opposite the person. It's a very different vibe.
Oh, well, you're welcome. This is a top-notch podcast studio. I'm not sure if you're going to see any of this, but it's not an empty office with cobwebs and a chin-up bar. There's other stuff as well. So welcome.
I'm definitely going to post a picture of it, but that also to say thank you very much for hosting this in your office and setting up all these little. He's basically just built a little podcast studio for us, and I couldn't be more excited about that. This is an absolute treat.
Oh, I'm over the moon. I got overexcited. And like you say, I'm slightly underprepared and over-enthused, but we've got all the gear and
some idea.
Half an idea.
Well, I love to sort of peel back is not the right thing. Pull back the curtain. Peeling back the curtain suggests that it's covered in something, but pull back the curtain on, I'd just like to hear like the behind the scenes and the sort of how things work. So originally my plan for this was, I'm back in Amsterdam for a week prior to Christmas to see family, etc., etc. I thought, you know what? This is the perfect opportunity to do an IRL podcast record, which we are currently doing, and to tie it in with both Christmas and a movie that I was very excited about seeing, Silent Night, the return of John Woo to Hollywood after 20 years. He's made a Christmas movie. Joe and I went to see the movie in real life 2 days ago. Sadly, it didn't really measure up. So we've got a backup movie so that it's not a Christmas episode where we talk shit about a movie constantly.
I had a lovely time being out of the house. It was an amazing cinema. One I haven't been to that much.
Yeah.
There was an IMAX. This wasn't in IMAX,
No.
but it was big. There were a few people around us. It was nice to be in the cinema again. It's been a while, but
Then the movie started.
yes. And yeah, like you say, we don't want to shit all over it.
We'll
but,
get to it in more depth. We'll get to it in
Yeah.
more depth later.
But I had an amazing time the next day just in my office watching the second film. So that kind of made up for it. But
Okay.
Thanks for... I felt the fear that when you ask someone to come along and watch a movie and then the movie's not very... I really felt that emanating from you and I felt bad for you. But it wasn't... It's not your fault,
Oh,
Simon.
God.
That's what I want
I
to say.
choose the wrench. You're right. And I would say this has sort of plagued my trying to put this podcast together over the last year, where I only want to speak about movies that I've enjoyed.
Yeah.
That was the sort of MO at the beginning when Matthew and I are doing it. We'll only speak about movies that we really love. But what that means, like, you just don't know if you're going to love a movie. So I would watch like 4 or 5 movies to find one that I felt was podcast worthy. And so at some point you have to sort of go, no, you know what? This is the movie we're going to watch and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Which seems like a good idea. But then you're like, okay, maybe I don't want to talk for half an hour about that. We'll talk for a few minutes about Silent Night. And then thankfully we did have a backup in the tanks. Before the Silent Night plan came to fruition, which was No Way Out, the Roundup, No Way Out. So we'll get to both. It's an enormous preamble. Joe, I don't know exactly when the last time you were on the pod was. We weren't IRL together. You've directed 2 BBC sitcoms on the British Broadcasting Corporation.
Yes, I have entered the world of low budget comedy. Medium budget comedy.
I've been in it for a few years.
It's been fantastic. I've done 2 full shows, one on BBC One and one on BBC Three. So I'm slowly making my way back down the ladder. But yeah, it's been great. It's been going back to the UK. I'm based in Amsterdam, and I've been flying back to Manchester and Liverpool, discovering 2 fantastic cities and trying to make comedy as best as I can. And at the same time, when I'm not doing that, I go home and watch comedy and films and quite a lot of MasterChef The Professionals.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it's been really fun. It's been a really great year. 2023 for me has been really good. I know it's been really hard for lots of people, but I've had a fantastic year, a lot of change. Any changes on your side?
Not much, really.
Right,
No,
yeah.
hardly anything. Just quickly moved over to Mumbai and then sort of just continued as before.
Right.
That's the main one.
But how's that been? How's Mumbai? How's the culture shock?
Gosh, I mean, I don't think there's enough time in the podcast to get through it, but it's very exciting. It's very different. I've only been there 4 months. We've done a few episodes of the pod from there. Hopefully they sound quite similar. So the pod remains the same. We've had perhaps more Indian movies because I've got to go and see them in the cinema. That's been very exciting. And life-wise, Joe, it's been an adventure, I would say.
As life should be.
Every day is an adventure, you know? It's hot, it's cold. It's not cold, actually. It's hot all the time. It's exciting. It's eye-opening. It's enjoyable. It's confusing. It's easy. It's difficult. It's all those things. Mumbai.
And this is all off the back of you falling in love with RRR and saying, like, I need to go to that country where this is emanated from.
Gotta go.
Yeah.
Gotta go.
It's brave.
Yeah. Well, so far, as a sort of year-end roundup, I've appeared in 2 films and 1 TV show, which I think is pretty good.
That's good going.
Certainly
in 4
compared
months.
to 4 years in the Netherlands and 30 plus in the UK. I mean, whether or not I've made it into the final output of those, we don't know yet because they have not been released. But here's to 2024 being very fruitful for the both of us in the media realm.
Indeed.
Indeed. Now,
Cheers.
since last time you were here and in recent months, weeks, what have you seen that has popped its head above the parapet and is worthy of sharing?
I've been watching more animation, which is something I haven't done a lot of.
Same. The not doing. I haven't done it. I still don't do it.
Right. You should.
Yeah, I've heard some of it's good.
It's really good. Some of it's been really great. The 2 ones that stick out for me are Scavenger's Reign on HBO. Quite hard to find. It wasn't released on HBO Netherlands, but it's on HBO. It's a fantastic sci-fi animation. Quite weirdly organic. A spaceship crashes on a planet and the inhabitants of the spaceship have to gather back together. But it's so well done. I was really blown away by it. I think it might have been the best thing I've seen this year, regardless of animation.
Whoa.
And the other animation has been Blue-Eyed Samurai on Netflix.
Heard about.
Fantastic.
Know nothing about.
Really great action set pieces and brilliant It looks incredible as well, and amazing voice performances. So those two programs have stood out for me, and they just both happen to be animation. So yeah, those are my two standouts. What about you?
I've got a sort of I wrote a little list, and I'll just razz through it. Silent Night, we'll get to. Yesterday, I saw Godzilla -1.
Lovely stuff.
Which, in a different world, may have been a podcast episode. However, the stars did not align. I'm not ruling it out, but really enjoyed that. And I'm I wouldn't say I'm not a fan. I'm not cognizant of the world of Godzilla and the multitude of movies prior to it. So I came in with very fresh eyes.
But you know the lore of it, and
I would say no, probably. I mean, I've seen the American one. The Jamiroquai one, as I refer to it, which I think that's its proper title, Godzilla Jamiroquai edition. And you laugh, but everyone knows which one you mean.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a good tune.
Yeah.
As soon as I got home, put that on. Also put on Pharoah Monch, Simon Says, because that is the Godzilla theme music, which I forget. The and in the cinema that goes, and I was like, bum 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 bum.
Get the fuck up.
It doesn't happen.
Mate. Oh, it doesn't do that.
Turns out he sampled it, not the other way around.
Oh, right.
It's a bit unexpected. Really enjoyed it. Just a really great, in my opinion, Godzilla movie, having seen hardly any, but it seems like the general vibe is it's a great Godzilla movie, and I enjoyed it as a movie as a whole. Outside of that, do you know what? A movie that has stuck in my head because I think it just surprised me, and it, I think, made it onto my watch list because other action people had said this has got one of the best action set pieces of the year in, is Malignant, the James Wan, I guess you would call it a sort of campy horror movie that sort of, it has those throwbacks to like those 80s horror movie, like Reanimator, you know, those blackly comic, campy horror flicks that aren't necessarily scary, but they do fall into the horror genre. I was like, you know, I'm just going to watch this. I hate to sort of be the person who goes, I'm not a fan of horror films, because I like good films. And having recently seen Barbarian, which was another one of those that kind of horror movies that popped its head above the parapet because people who aren't sort of steeped in the genre were like, this one's a good one. I would put it in that category, and almost the sort of subcategory of movies that you think are one thing, and then there's the turn. Don't know if they call it that in the genre, and then they go absolutely batshit.
I love those movies. The hard left turn.
Hard left. I
think Cloverfield Lane is a good example of that.
I haven't seen that still.
Really?
Yeah.
But I feel that turn is that's really a great turn. Feels like it could be bolted on at a later date, which is quite interesting. Yeah. What other hard turns are there in films? Should have thought about this before bringing that question up.
No, I immediately think of like Shyamalan, but that's more of a reveal. It's not a turn.
It's a tonal turn rather than just a twist as well.
Yes. Anyway, I really enjoyed Malignant. It does appear to have split people. There's definitely people who are like, this is awful cheese dog shit. But I don't know. It just caught me at the right time, and I didn't know anything about it. And I think that is very key with these turn movies.
Yeah. Nice.
That was good. Fight Against Evil 2, another Chinese DTV action movie. Some really great scraps in it. Just could have done with the pacing. It made me, when I was watching the Roundup No Way Out, it put me in mind of Fight Against Evil 2, because I thought if they had been more aware of the pacing, which I think they did very well in the Roundup, which is to say, make sure someone's getting punched every 15 minutes, then Fight Against Evil 2 would probably be like a 4-star. As it is, it's too much build-up and then some very good scraps. I have watched movies that aren't action. I should also throw that in. Saw Bottoms, which is a left field high school comedy, which I quite enjoyed. Also saw a movie called Time Addicts, which is an Australian black comedy thriller about a couple of junkies who just go on like an errand for a dealer, and they find this drug that takes them back in time. And it's all set in like one house, very low budget, sort of first time writer director vibes.
Nice.
Clever, enjoyable. As I even had the thought, I was like, well, I've turned into all of my parents. So much Australian level swearing.
They do it really well, though.
But you know how Australians will just shoot out a sort of
C word.
a C word like it means nothing, which it doesn't there.
No.
But it's that times like 10. I mean, they're junkies. It's like, it's character. But, oh, my word, there's a lot of blues. There's so many blues in it. But, yeah, it's sort of worth a look, I think.
I'm a massive fan of time travel movies or time
Same.
loop movies.
Oh.
Anything with a clever loop in it, I will watch.
There's a couple of Indian ones that have popped onto my radar. There's one called Mark Antony that came out this year, which somebody said I should watch.
About Jennifer Lopez's partner.
Exactly.
Is it?
No,
Oh.
no, it's not. But he gets stuck in a time loop.
And just keeps up
He's meeting her.
divorcing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an absolute sucker for
Yeah.
the time loop movies. So if you're into that, worth a look. If you're not my mum and you're not going to go, there's just too much swearing in this.
Too much effing and jeffing.
There was so much Jeffin.
Mm.
Anyway, that's all. That's all I've seen. There's loads. We've already got trailers to get through. Do you think we should have a little butchers?
Yes, please.
Listener, this is very exciting. We're going to watch the trailers live in the room. I don't know if that's going to affect anyway our enjoyment of them or our reactions to them. But the first one is The Brother's Son. I've got a lot of time for this one.
This looks great.
We've got Michelle Yeoh, so obviously that's lured me in. I'm a big fan.
And isn't it great that she's now Academy Award winner, Michelle
Love
Yeoh?
that.
That's so great. Yeah, it has like crazy rich Asian vibes in terms of like,
It does.
in terms of how it looks and feels and the quips in it and stuff like that. But the action looks really good as well.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a series.
It's a series.
It's a series.
In that case, I don't know if that makes me more or less excited about it. Because if it was a movie, you're like, this is action packed. But if now it's 10 hours long, you're like, oh, okay. There's a sort of spread out across. I'm going to watch it either way. I think it looks like it's got a good conceit. There's some laughs. Michelle Yeoh's there. We don't know how much. Well, 8 episodes according to IMDb, and the action looks really good. So I don't know who's behind it. We look at this is the first time I've ever done this. We've got a screen between us, like we're on Rogan, so we can like live look things up during complete silence on the podcast. While Joe scrolls through the IMDb, he's looking up who did the stunts.
Eric Brown. Oh, so it's not do you think it's the same people
Marshall
behind?
Club.
Nice.
That's who they're called. I dug it out.
Looks really great. Does that thing which pretty much every trailer does nowadays in terms of covering a song, slowing it down, but
Syncopating the action to the piece of the song.
the Nancy Sinatra bang bang. It's done really well. But I'm surprised it's a series. Like you say, I was more interested in it being a film rather than 8 hours of something I have to watch. But
because you do that happens a lot, I think, with Netflix, where you're like, this is good. Oh, it's okay. Well, that means you're probably going to get one good bit of action every 45 minutes to an hour in a less than ideal world. However, if it's a full on action show, then I'm on board.
yeah, rather than every 15 minutes that you want in a film, it's going to be it's going to bookend episodes maybe. So you've got 2 every hour. That's technically only 16 pieces of action for 8 hours if we're doing the maths.
Unless they use up all the budget and then you have to have the bottle episode
That is true.
where there's no
There's a lot
action.
of talking.
Yeah, they're just in a room. Yeah, this one has floated very quickly to the top of my excitement on Netflix list. I think the beginning of next year is going to be an absolute banger in terms of stuff coming out. Let's move on quickly. This one I popped in because it's from Indonesia, where I outside of The Raid and Gareth Evans' output, I've not seen a lot of Indonesian stuff. This one is called 13 Bom di Jakarta. I didn't do it in the sort of local accent. I don't know what that would sound like, but I think it means 13 bombs in Jakarta.
Again, looks really good. Like, it looks like there's quite a lot of money put into that.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think like there's a lot of things exploding. There's a lot of gun stuff. It's quite hard to do that on the cheap.
Yeah.
But it also does, in some shots, looks quite low budget, and in others quite grand. I think that's a very difficult sort of chasm to straddle.
I was impressed by how it looked, and that's just such a weird way to say that, though. I was impressed by the way it looked. Yeah, it looked in, like you say, quite a lot of car crashes.
Yeah,
which is hard to not do without crashing cars.
true. It put me in mind of 90s thrillers, early 2000s thrillers. I love it as sort of a ticking clock. You know, there's like an investigation. There's 13 bombs placed around the city. We've got to defuse the bombs. We've got to shoot the baddies. There's some like martial arts action. It's in Indonesia. I don't know what that city looks like. It's very exciting. There's a metro train. We know that because it was exploding at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just got a lot of time for this sort of. It feels like a sort of new school, old school.
I love a thriller. I think we were saying this the other day. I love propulsive films that really carry you through, and they talk a lot about ticking clocks and scripts and stuff like that, and how do we keep it going. But if you've literally got 13 bombs around the city, there's your ticking clock.
Yeah.
8.7 on the IMDb, which is quite high.
That's very high, isn't it? I don't know if it's out. I think I put it in actually because it comes out in about a week's time. It says internationally. Who knows where it's going to end up, but I'm going to keep my eyes open for 13 Bombs in Jakarta. Also just nice to see stuff coming out of a country where I haven't seen a lot of local cinema. In fact, basically everything I've seen has been directed by the same Welshman.
Yeah, no. And everything nowadays is just, there's a level to it now that everything looks good.
Yeah.
No matter what the budget is, people expect things to look a certain way. And this looks of that level. I'm really excited by it.
It's the sort of, for better or worse, Netflixization of movies, right?
That's true.
Like you making this, while it is a local production, you have to have one eye on the international market.
Yeah.
Now, we got one more trailer. It's in the wake of, I think we talked about it last episode, but we also saw the trailer before Silent Night for The Beekeeper.
Fantastic. What a name. Just on a name itself. Just absolutely fantastic. I'm in.
Yeah. Starring Jason Statham. Oh, the Beekeeper is a secret society. But what is his job? Oh, no. He actually, it's so on the nose. He's actually a beekeeper. Suddenly, I mean, I guess you see one, you start seeing them everywhere, right? But there's a movie called The Bricklayer. There's a movie called The Painter. We've already had The Mechanic and The Accountant. I'm waiting for the Avengers of these movies where they all
come together and do their jobs.
Together. That's it. And they just build a house
with some beehives outside of it and start providing their own flammable honey.
Yes, we learned that from the trailer. So I've picked The Bricklayer because it looks I suppose, more interesting of the two out of The Painter and The Bricklayer. The Painter looks like very DTV. This is directed by Rennie Harlin of Cliffhanger,
oh wow,
Die Hard 2 fame.
Oh wow.
There is a lot to enjoy in that trailer, isn't there?
That is not good.
Oh, I hate that that's what you took away from that.
Okay, no, I mean, well, just compared to the 13 Bombs of Jakarta and The Brother's Son in terms of trailers.
Okay.
That wasn't.
This is a very cookie cutter trailer in terms of
nuts and bolts.
We've made a very specific kind of movie for a very specific audience.
Okay.
And we need to sell it to them, right?
Yeah, but that's it's so dated in the way that was done. I don't know. Yeah, again, you don't want to. Yeah, no, I don't know what it was about that I didn't like, but
I heard the title of The Bricklayer and I was like,
Yeah.
if he doesn't kill someone with a trowel
Yeah.
in this, and straight away it delivered that.
Did he kill him with a trowel?
Trowel through the neck, mate.
Oh.
Although I don't know if Jason Statham's going to kill anyone with a bee in that movie. So,
With honey.
oh, he does kill them with honey.
Yeah,
He does
yeah.
kill them with honey.
I don't like it when there's a fight at a party and people keep dancing.
John Wick 4. Sure.
And they just keep, it's like anytime there's any kind of ruckus in a club, then the club that I've been in, when there've been ruckuses. I've been to a few clubs where
He's
there've
been in a few rumbles.
It breaks up really quickly, even if there's tension. If there's a fight, you don't keep dancing.
No.
Yeah, so that broke it. That layer of immersion ruined it for me.
That's the part, right?
In the roundup, there's a few fights in the club, and they scatter quickly.
Yes.
So respect to that.
That's
Sorry.
interesting, isn't it? That one of your bugbears is the realistic adherence to crowd dynamics in a club fight situation.
Yes.
These ones can go in one of so many ways. I mean, Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh yeah, he's good. But then if you said, what's Aaron Eckhart been in? I'd go
Dark Knight?
Yes,
And
of course he's in the Dark Knight.
Thank you for smoking.
I don't mind him kind of. He feels like he could be an all right action hero.
Yeah, in the Liam Neeson vein of action heroes.
It sort of is, isn't it? Yeah, it's not Jerry action quite yet,
Nice.
but he's got to be in his late 40s to early 50s. Looking very good.
I would say 50s.
50s.
Yeah.
I think he can hold his own. So I'm interested to see him doing action. As for the rest of the movie, again, Rennie Harlin, he's done some good stuff back quite a while back. But who knows?
It has been a while. He's been producing a lot.
Yeah. This looks like it ticks all the boxes, and it's going to be one of the ones where it's all the glue in between.
Yeah.
Like in the trailer, there's a good bit of hand to hand. There's some exploding. There's some stunts. Somebody says, we're going to have to go to Greece. But you feel like in the background, someone else is going for tax purposes.
Also with her.
Yeah.
Because she's available to come with. So
He says a thing that's like, you can't be the boss. You're a woman.
you're now wearing a dress. And it's the glue in between these bits that make the films for me.
Yeah.
And
You never know that from the trailer.
Yeah. So that's what flagged it for me. And watching more and more of these films, it's obviously the action set pieces are so key in terms of the enjoyment, but getting to those action set pieces, if it's laborious, then I might as well just be watching a highlights package on YouTube. I'd rather do it like that. I think it's so important. And again, in terms of the 13 Bombs of Jakarta, people expect more nowadays in terms of storytelling, I think.
I think that's a very well made point, actually. Yeah. Because you can sort of get action. Well, I know this because I watch a lot of things that maybe sidestep the storytelling to some degree, because I'm like, well, if you offer me up some good scraps, stunts and set pieces, I'm willing to overlook a lot. But you are right. Like that, you can get that in a lot of places. So to have the sort of joining up bits, though, that's what elevates it above, for want of a better word, DTV status, right? You know, genre DTV stuff is, look, we know why we're all here. We want to see him put a trowel in someone's neck. But the ones that stick out are the ones that offer you a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. And so, for example, The Brother's Son, even the quips in between, they felt a bit marvelly, but still kind of a bit of humour. And like, that's so important. And that's really what divides our two kind of feature presentations in terms of the Roundup and Silent Night. Is the action is similar, but the how we get there is so different. And it completely changed my enjoyment of each of those films. So that's where maybe The Bricklayer kind of raised some red flags for me.
It feels like this is the perfect time to seg into our feature presentations.
And now, our feature presentation.
Dodge this.
So, the original plan was Joe and I go to the cinema, we watch Silent Night, John Woo's back, we talk about it and have a lovely old pod, and it's Christmas. However, we did at least half of those things. We went to the cinema, we saw it on the biggest screen available. John Woo has returned to Hollywood. I don't want to spend the whole pod talking about it, because as I want to say lifelong, but 30 year John Woo fan, as the teenager that had the poster of The Killer up in my university dorm room and owned all of his movies on VHS back in the day, and some of them latterly on DVD, I went in with a level of excitement but nervous trepidation, having seen his last movie, Manhunt, which went straight to Netflix, and that irked me quite a bit because it felt like John Woo almost sort of parodying himself. His last Hollywood movie was Paycheck with Ben Affleck.
Wow.
I saw it in the cinema when it came out, but that was a solid 20 years ago. But prior to that, he made Hard Target in Hollywood. He made Face Off in Hollywood. He made Broken Arrow and Wind Talkers in Hollywood, all of which to varying degrees are good movies. And then he also made some of the greatest action films ever made in Hong Kong. We're talking The Killer. I forgot Mission Impossible 2, of course, which a lot of people hate, but there is some absolute textbook John Woo in there. But the hard-boiled, the Killers, the Better Tomorrow 2s, the Bullet in the Heads. These are defining movies of a generation, and they kind of carved him out as this auteur of action. So maybe there's a lot resting on his return to Hollywood at the age of, I want to say, almost 70 or something mad. But what we get is Silent Night, a unique take on an action movie. I suspect this is maybe what drew him to it, that he could make a movie that was slightly different, because its thing is there's no dialogue in ostensibly the whole movie. What is the rest of the plot, Joe, if I forced you to sum it up?
It's quite a bleak, a depressing plot. A father and mother have a 4-year-old little boy who is killed by a stray bullet. And then most of the film is spent grieving that child. Brian Godlock is the character's name, played by Joel Kinnaman, gets shot in the throat in the opening sequence. Never heard of anyone living through being shot at point blank range in the throat.
I'll allow it in the suspension of disbelief to get the plot on the road. I will let that one slip through. If there was a fight at a party and no one moved, that's where I'd get mad.
So Joel and his partner, played by Catalina Sandino Marino, who we've seen in a few other films. She's really good as well. They grieve, and
quite a long time. Then
she leaves him, and then Brian goes on the road of revenge, and there's montages where he gets slightly better at fighting through doing chin-ups, watching YouTube videos, buying stuff off Amazon and fighting it. It's very kind of budget John Wick.
He's a very modern hero in that regard.
He's a very modern hero. I mean, if I wanted to reap revenge, I'd probably go about it the same way, to be honest.
Yeah.
If I want to know how to fix my dishwasher, I go on YouTube. If I want to know how to
murder someone in the throat with a knife,
I'll probably also use YouTube.
You're gonna head the same place, aren't you?
Go incognito mode. That would be the two differences.
Yes, it wasn't clear which mode he used, actually.
It looked like it was just
just
browsing. Yeah,
he didn't care. He knew he wasn't coming back.
And so he goes after his son's killers, which happened to be from the Latino community, which he lives amongst in, and reaps revenge in a quite sad way. There's the action is underpowered and full of regret, which is quite strange. And he gives himself a year as well. So his son unfortunately dies at Christmas.
Right.
He returns to find the presents under the Christmas tree, which these strangely kind of very, 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 very sad.
As you say it, it sounds like this could be handled in a way where it really pulls on the heartstrings. And yet somehow
it doesn't.
It just feels leaden.
Yes, maudlin. Saccharine in a very sad way, whatever the sad saccharine, whatever a sweet, sad, cheesy way. And so he gives himself a year to get better at fighting, get better at doing chin-ups.
Right, it's kill them all on his calendar.
Yeah, circled.
Important.
And the calendar's used to kind of track his progress throughout montages. There's a little bit of welding thrown in.
It's important to keep yourself accountable if you're on, a new workout regime or a knife murder YouTube course. Keep checking in. Look back. A month ago, I didn't know the knife goes in, you pull it out. Learnt it from Gareth in the office. But so, you can chart your progress.
Exactly. Progress charting is incredibly important when you want to reap revenge on the murderers.
In fairness, there's about 2/3 of the movie, isn't it?
It is. There's quite a lot of montages revolving around the calendar as well.
Yeah.
So it's like you say, there's an awful lot of everything else before the action. The bits of the action that we do see early on in terms of the cars and the guns are really good because John Woo does cars and guns like no one else. It just there's just too much sadness in between. And I don't know about you, but I don't go to watch action movies to feel sad.
No. I think it just didn't know what sort of movie it wanted to be, right? Was it Death Wish or Death Sentence or one of those like, I don't know, even like Falling Down or one of those movies where you're like, oh boy, this guy is charting a path towards self-destruction and we're just kind of watching him fall apart? Or did it want to be all guns blazing from the producers of John Wick and John Woo at the helm? Oh, can you imagine what this is going to be? Like, it just didn't seem to fall into either camp. It was like two acts of bleak, God, he's really sad, he can't talk. And then the sort of finale of let's make cool action, but also like not cool enough in a sort of post John Wick world. It doesn't measure up. But is that what the plan was? That he's not John Wick. He's a guy who's learned off YouTube, but they don't lean into, oh God, he's massively out of his depth. He's really struggling. Apart from in that one, I would say probably the best action scene where he first tries to get information out of the guy who works for the cartel. Yeah. And he has him tied up. Then the guy kind of escapes and they have like quite a brutal and a good, I would say good is a weird word, but like it feels real. Like he's like, oh shit, I didn't plan for this. Yeah. I'm not John Wick. I can't just like put this guy in a chokehold. This guy's fighting for his life. They're both fighting for their lives. It felt like quite a good, tense fight. And then there's another big gap. And then he's kind of, runs up 15 levels of a building, shooting sort of faceless goons who just run into his periph.
With his shotgun.
Yeah.
I mean, Joel Kinnaman does Everyman really well.
Yeah.
And does the Action Man Everyman really well. But in this, it felt like he was overacting because of the gimmick of everyone's not being able to talk. He was over-emoting. I guess there was a lot for him to emote as well. So it felt. But
it's like sort of soap opera melodrama sometimes.
Yes. Very melodramatic.
Yeah.
That was the way to do it. And I guess when you're grieving the loss, the worst thing that can happen to you, I think, is as a parent is to lose a child. So you do need to go there. But it was so strange tonally, like you say, and with the producers of John Wick and John Woo, you just thought, what is this?
Right.
Like, where does this sit? It's also a Christmas movie.
Yes.
Because he's wearing a Christmas jumper at the start.
Yeah.
And there are 4 or 5 set pieces. No, the final set piece has baubles. There's quite a lot of baubles.
Yeah. Some really ill-placed, thought through, ill-advised. There's the bauble bit at the end where you just go, I mean, fair play to the auteur's vision. If John Woo was like, this is how I see it, this is how it's going to be. But I just don't know how it didn't get, someone didn't go, people are going to laugh.
Mm.
And even, I can't stress this enough how big a fan of John Woo I am. And it pains me. But it was just almost bad, I would say. As a movie as a whole, probably bad.
I don't think it was almost bad. It was bad, Simon. I think we have to.
I'm very forgiving. If those last 20 minutes had been the best action I've seen this year, or even just John Woo tier action, I think the worst thing I can say about it is if no one told me, I wouldn't know John Woo directed it.
You didn't? There weren't flashes of it, little bits.
Yeah,
of
occasionally.
embers.
There was at the beginning. There's a bit in a hospital where there's some very odd, like, digital zooms into his wife, which was sort of confusing, but I was like, well, that's a choice. There was no doves. There wasn't as much slow-mo as you would expect. There were a few glimpses of, what is that camera that shoots at super high frame rates? Phantoms.
Yeah.
There was a few shots shot on the Phantom.
Yeah.
You could tell because like the exposure drops on those shots because you got to light it so bright, right?
Yeah.
And there's just like, it's in the trailer, I think, where there's the cars are kind of doing that car dance where, you know, they're both skidding around each other. There's like gunshots pinging off stuff, and it cuts to like the Phantom shot of that. Super slow-mo, the kind of practical spark effects where I was like, that's a great shot. That's a great John Woo shot. And there's maybe 3 glimpses of that in the movie where you just go, oh, what this could have been. If you just look at, you know, one of the set pieces from like Hard Boiled or something, there's no bit where someone does something and you see it 3 times. There's one bit where Kid Cudi has 2 guns. Kid Cudi's role is basically to exist in this movie. Part of me feels like a lot of this movie maybe got chopped out. I don't know, because they were like, mate, we've made the decision for no one to speak, but it's boring. We have to make it shorter. What about the bit where the detective speaks? I think we can lose it. But then we don't see him in the whole movie, and then he just shows up at the end for no reason, and it is in an action scene. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Does feel like it's been edited strangely. If you're going to cut out that stuff and leave in all of the mourning, so much grieving.
Oh.
Strange choices. But like you say, and as I said at the start, you shouldn't feel bad for showing me this film, because in terms of the hallmarks of like, it had all that. I really like Joel Kinnaman. I really like the RoboCop reboot. I like the Suicide Squads. I like him as an actor, and I think he's really good. I was shocked at how bad this film was.
I think he's doing his best. I think everyone in it is doing their best. And maybe John Woo is doing his best. I don't know. It's not his best work, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. It just feels like a lot of pieces of the puzzle that do not fit together. And it feels confused. I just can't. I can't recommend anyone watch it.
It felt dated as well, and I don't want to sound ageist, but it felt like when I see a Clint Eastwood movie, because it's a certain point of view that's a little bit older.
It's slightly conservative, you might say.
It's a conservative viewpoint.
But they don't lean into that, right? If it was Death Wish and they were like, let's see what happens if you think this way and you follow it to its natural conclusion, and you're like, actually, he's maybe a lunatic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually like he's gone too far now. These people, he's lost it.
Yeah.
That's not explored, right?
No, not at all. They keep pulling him back from that in terms of him having panic attacks and throwing up after killing people. So they obviously want to pull him back from being the
Travis Bickle.
exactly becoming the madman of the piece. So strange, but it felt out of time, and it felt in this post John Wick world in terms of action and the more nuanced storytelling of other films that weren't this. Yeah, I was really disappointed by it.
Same. Let's not end a podcast on that vibe. It's Christmas. Whew, thank goodness we already had this backup one in the chamber, which this was the movie we were originally going to talk about before I realised that I was going to be in town and that we could do it at IRL. Last time you were on the pod, we talked about The Roundup, The Outlaws 2, The Roundup, starring Don Lee and his massive Hulk fists. Well, there's a new The Roundup. It's called The Roundup No Way Out. It's the nomenclature of these movies is slightly confusing because the first one was called The Outlaws, the sequel was called The Roundup, and now this one is called The Roundup No Way Out, which sort of almost distances the first movie. The literal translation is Crime City. In Korea, they're called Crime City 2, Crime City 3. But, you know, things get bought internationally and rebranded. So this is the third movie in the Crime City series where Don Lee is a cop who punches people.
As soon as this film started, I was like, yes, especially after we saw this I watched this the day after seeing Silent Night.
And we both really enjoyed The Roundup.
I love The Roundup.
For people who didn't listen to that episode, if you want to hear Joe and us talking about the South Korean movie The Roundup, I think that was a really solid bit of
really great movie.
Cinema.
Yeah.
Good thriller, good bit of detecting, and some solid action.
Yeah. And some comedy sprinkled in.
You're right. And a few little bits of unexpected comedy thrown in. Give us a plot sum up of this one, mate. I'm sorry.
Don Lee returns. He's back with his Big Punch. It's produced by Big Punch Pictures, which I absolutely love. They really lean into it.
That has to be his production company,
100%.
Right? It's got to be.
He's got one gimmick, but it's such a good gimmick, and it keeps working over and over again. He's a cop, and they work for what are they called? Like internal? No, what's their little?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Media City, I want to call it.
Seoul Police Force. The
Yes.
Seoul Detective Squad.
And there's 5 of them. It's a little bit of a ragtag group led by Don Lee. And they've discovered a drug ring. They're selling a drug called Hyper, which are little blue pills, which for me are Viagra.
Yeah.
You can't put little blue pills on film and not make them into penis drugs.
I do love any movie that has made up drug in it, though.
They describe it as better than cocaine and heroin. And so then I thought, well, that's fentanyl. But it's...
What colour is fentanyl, Joe? You seem to know a lot about this.
It's white. It's very small white crystals.
Quite scary. Okay.
It's not big blue pills that people take. And this drug ring is run out of Japan with
Yakuza?
Yakuza.
Yeah.
And it's flowing through Korea. And so the Japanese are the bad guys in this, for want of a better word.
That's pretty much it, isn't it?
That is pretty much it. It's quite thin
There's a lot of sort
plot-wise.
of nefarious double dealing and stuff, right? There's like in between people, there's sort of some local, no spoilers, some local South Korean guys who are dealing with the Japanese guys and a Chinese lady. And there's a lot of double crossing, and there's the drugs sort of get disappeared, and then they're after the drugs, and there's all, different warring factions.
Yeah, they make it very clear. It's quite nice. There's these drugs that go missing and they're worth 30 million. Yeah, just a really fantastic. I love this film. And I don't know whether it was because of off the back of Silent Night that I liked it so much.
Yeah.
But it really knew what it was. Whereas Silent Night didn't know really what it was.
Fair.
This film knows exactly what it is right from the start.
It really does. And I think that's to its benefit, but you could also argue, if you wanted to its detriment, in that it kind of takes the exact template of the previous movie and pretty much repeats it.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of surprises in here, right?
No. But I could watch more of it. That's the thing.
Well,
there's no surprises.
No spoilers, because it's already announced on the internet. And I think it says it at the end.
Yeah, I think it does.
There's already the next one is already in production.
Right. What it does really well that I really like is it does deadpan comedy really, really well. In terms of, I think I talked about this last time, in terms of, it reminds me of like Lethal Weapon in terms of the way it blends its action and comedy. And you can have comedic action bits, comedic bits just on their own, and then out and out action. I think it works really well. I really like these movies. I really like Don Lee. I think he's really great. Deadpan. He's got really great comic timing. I think, as with action movies and martial arts, the timing is everything, whether it's fighting or whether it's delivering lines.
Yes.
And like the timing of this film is, and the pacing of it, it is a bit rote by the numbers, stuff we've seen before. You could say it's probably not as good as the Roundup one in terms of Outlaws 2, Roundup 1, Roundup 2, whatever we're calling this.
Some of football scores now. Outlaws 1, Roundup 2.
Roundup 3,
Outlaws
No Way
4.
Out. So it's probably not as good as that.
Yeah.
I think it looks a bit different. I don't think it looks as good.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that...
Well, they went to Thailand in the last one? Yeah.
Which gives it a really kind of unique feel.
Yeah.
There's definitely a way that Thailand feels. It's yellows and greens.
Yes,
it's more gritty.
yes.
Whereas South Korea is cleaner. And this looks cleaner as well.
Sort of clinical almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it looks a little bit, more clinical, a bit cleaner.
Well, going into this, I did wonder. I was like, oh, there's a sort of samurai sword wielding bad guy. Are they going to pop to Japan? But they don't.
Yeah.
They stay put in South Korea for this one. And it is the same director as the last movie as
Yeah.
well, which probably speaks to it hitting all those same beats, right?
Yeah. And it's very confident, which I really like.
Yeah.
It knows how to deliver a joke. And there are some really great, really funny, just well-timed action jokes that I love.
Right.
Physical comedy.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
It sort of catches you off guard, I think, sometimes, because I go in thinking, okay, here we go. Don Lee punching everyone. But there are enough of those moments. There's one moment in the movie which is very balls out with just a comedy beat.
Yeah.
But it caught me so off guard that I, dead inside, never laugh out loud, gave it a good, all right, go on then. Go on then.
Yeah.
Right in between him smashing people's skulls in.
Yeah. And once again, the thing that stood out for me is really good sound design.
Really good.
The way that it all sounds, because you've got Don Lee who punches people really hard.
If you haven't seen a Don Lee movie before, it sounds a bit mad just to kind of say his thing is he punches people really hard.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, that is what it is, right?
And he does.
He's an ex-boxer in
Right.
the movie, and I want to say in real life.
I think
He
so.
certainly moves like he knows what he's doing.
He's MMA trained and
Right.
trains other MMA
He's a beefy
fighters.
lad.
He's a big guy.
So he's not doing any Donnie Yen style spin kicks. Nobody's getting, clonked in the noggin with a heel. He's got two massive cannons.
Yeah.
He ducks, he bobs and weaves. What's that move? What's the boxing move where you duck out of the way of punches?
Bob and weave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does that.
Yeah.
People try and hit him. He ducks out of the way like boxers do. If you
Yeah.
ever watched one of those YouTube videos where a trained boxer goes, try and punch me in the face. And you're like, yeah, well, obviously I'm going to be able to punch you in the face. And you're like, oh, actually, if you're trained to get out of the way of punches, it's actually quite hard to punch them in the face. He does that. He ducks out of the way and then lamps people.
Yeah.
And they react in sort of the way that I think you and I would react if a real boxer punched you in the face, which is one punch and they're done.
They fold like a deck chair every time. It's fantastic to watch. And like you say, it happens over and over again. It's so satisfying to see someone be punched and react in a way that is genuine. You're like, yeah, that sounds about right. And the sound design and the way that Donnelly moves and the way that these people take their hits, it's so satisfying to watch.
Not to bring it back immediately to Silent Night, but on that sound design note, for a movie that is kind of pegged on, there's no dialogue in this movie, I would have expected the sound design to be so extraordinary. Like, okay, we have to like paint this movie as if a blind person is watching it, you know? And it just didn't stand out.
No.
There were too many moments where I could hear people rustling in the cinema and just, Anyway, that was my only point, that we didn't sort of say it, that the whole conceit of there's no dialogue, I felt like didn't actually really add anything to the movie.
In Silent Night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realise that was the conceit. I didn't realise people weren't talking.
Yeah.
I just thought, why?
Which is maybe a good, it was like, oh, well, that's impressive that you didn't notice that they told the story. But at the same time, you just could have. People could have talked. The detective could have talked.
Yeah. Or I just thought the wife didn't want to interrupt the husband, so just texted him a lot.
Yeah. I
didn't realise they weren't talking. I'm such an idiot.
Anyway, to bring it back to the Roundup No Way Out, we definitely said this last time. The sound design of his sort of like, you know, him Hulk smashing people. Just the weight you feel every time he wallops someone. And to your point of, you would think it would get repetitive. They managed to just sort of sprinkle a little bit of special sauce on each of the skirmishes, such that they're never boring. It's never just like, oh, he's just going to punch 5 people and done. There's always like a little, maybe somebody's on one of those sort of retractor wires, like he wangs them through a bookshelf or over a desk or
through a window.
Yeah. Not to pooch my action replay moment, but there's some really nice bits where, and they never learn.
They always want to fight him.
Yeah.
Usually with knives. Once again, we talked about it. The knife work in this.
Quite a gun-free country.
Yeah,
South
no
Korea.
guns.
Yeah.
And a samurai sword.
There is a samurai sword. Yeah. Did it feel slightly less R-rated to you?
Yes.
Because I feel like the second one, the Roundup, had a very stabby bad guy in it. And there was some quite brutal. And this one, it did feel brutal, but it felt like some of that brutality happened off camera. People get thonked, but you don't see it as much.
In that traditional way of 3 thonks, they're dead.
Dead.
And then the blood comes up on the thonker's face. Thonkies? No, the thonkers.
The thonker.
The thonker. And then that's it. It felt more mainstream.
Interesting.
I think.
Yeah.
Less violent, more comedy.
Huh.
I think there were more comedic moments.
You think they were angling for that deliberately?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It felt, and that's why it made it slightly less, interesting or edgy for me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed all the comedic moments, but it felt like that was something they were going for in terms of more mainstream appeal.
That's interesting. Like the second one was maybe super successful and they were like,
Whoa.
We have to literally repeat this, but also draw in new people by making it slightly more accessible and not having people very much stabbed up.
A lot of stabbing in 2, really early on.
I mean, in this one, someone gets thonked in the head with a pipe right at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And you see the blood splatter. And I noted that as well. I was like, you'll definitely, when he thonks him, you'll definitely see a bit of blood on his shirt because that's how you know the guy's dead.
In the first thonking, he turns up in a blazer and a white polo shirt, which really stuck out for me. I'm like, why is he wearing a white polo shirt? Then it gets covered in blood. He's like, he probably knew he was going to thonk someone and didn't want to wear his best Oxford shirt.
Right.
He went for a polo shirt.
Yeah.
So that's something that stuck out for me. I felt the guy who plays Ricky, Munetaka Okay.
He's the samurai.
He's the samurai guy.
wielding
Yeah.
bad guy. He's not the chief baddie, you would say. He's
Yeah.
the sort of end of level boss you have to defeat to get to the chief baddie.
Yeah.
Who is, and it's sort of one of my bugbears in movies, and I get it a lot. And in this one, I think it's fine. But sometimes, it's what you might call like the sort of Alan Rickman in Die Hard effect, where the chief baddie is a good actor.
Yeah,
and he's very good at being a good actor, but he's not a fighter. So you have to have him have a chief henchman, big long-haired, blonde German guy with a machine gun, for our hero to fight to get to him, right?
I don't remember him in this. The long-haired
The
German.
German henchman.
Yeah,
guy.
was he in? No. Oh, okay.
Right. No, he's in the Nakatomi Plaza. So yeah, Ricky is the guy in front of the bad guy.
But I thought the bad guy was a really good actor
Yes.
and really, really menacing and worked really well.
Yeah, he did a good job.
He took his top off. He was fairly hench.
Did he take his top off?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm quite shirt orientated. I think he might have taken his polo off. Or, yeah.
After it had been, he'd thonked someone.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to have to change this again.
Watch this, yeah.
Post-thonking.
Yeah, he was very good. Yeah.
He was really good.
Very, no spoilers, I think, but yeah, he sort of is a quite suave, but also quite menacing.
Yes, he did that really well.
Which I think is what you want in a baddie.
And they were, again, similar to the second roundup, the first film.
Second Outlaws, first roundup.
The comedic turns there there were some really great performances from people who turned up and were just comedic relief, but they did it really well. The guy who played Cherry really made me laugh. And obviously,
is he the car salesman guy?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He was really
funny,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just really good deadpan humor, which is my kind of humor anyway. But to see it filtered through a lens of this South Korean action movie.
Yeah.
It really ticks so many of my boxes. I'm not sure why I love these films so much,
I'm
but I
so
really
glad
do.
because if I brought you back and you were like, oh, for fuck, didn't we just watch one of these?
This is the same thing. It was like, no, bring it on.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I will say my only slight sort of observation, complaint, whatever opinion is the police team.
Yeah.
Is very much Don Lee and some other sort of interchangeable. I know they are, I hope they are the same team.
Yeah, I think they are.
As before, but I couldn't really tell them apart.
Yeah.
You know, there's like his boss, he sort of has a tiny bit of role. And then there's just like 4 or 5 other random detectives. I would have liked it if, for example, one of his team was a good fighter.
Right.
But not like a thonky fist fighter. Like he was just good at martial arts, so that whenever something kicked off, it wasn't them barely surviving and Don Lee hulking everyone, but it was a little bit more evenly matched so that he isn't sort of just a superhero.
Yeah. They do a good job. His main kind of sidekick in that group just always tries to stop him fighting people, which I do
That's
like.
quite
Just
fun,
trying to break up. No, you don't want to do this. I do really like that role of like, the peacemaker in it. But they're completely ridiculous. They're useless. His crew.
They sort of are.
2 of them get really badly beaten up, and then they get quickly replaced by 2 other people who are equally useless, and they're bringing them in. So they just get taken off the bench.
Yeah. I'd like to have the beatdowns a little bit more evenly spread, even though we're going to see Don Lee do the beatdowns, right? But it would be nice if he wasn't sort of surrounded by seemingly incompetent other detectives. They're all detectives, right? They've got retractable batons, and yet as soon as anything kicks off, you're sort of like, oh, maybe they'll hold their own, but they sort of, oh no,
fair dues.
Yeah,
I get that.
In terms of like the plot stuff, I remember the second or like the third act of the roundup being quite propulsive. Like it kicks off and there's this sort of cat and mouse chase.
Yeah.
And that hooked me in. I didn't feel it quite as much with this one.
No.
It's this sort of, not a wild goose chase, like an actual goose chase.
Mm-hmm.
A goose chase? Why is it a wild goose chase? Why is it called a wild goose chase, Joe?
Because tamed geese are just too easy to catch. Yeah.
And a wild goose, you'll never get him.
No way.
Well, then maybe it is a wild goose chase because they're trying to find this bag of Viagra.
Yeah. £30 million worth of Viagra.
$30 million US worth of Viagra. Which is probably about the same. Brexit. But it didn't feel quite as just exciting in the chase part. It was more of a putting the pieces of a puzzle together. Like we go here, then we have to go here. We better have a scrap quickly. Then we go here. Whereas the other one was a bit like, we got to get there. We got to get here. Like there was more of that ticking clock kind of vibe.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's it was slightly underpowered as it went towards the end. Still powered by the performance of the main bad guy. That really kept me hooked in. But yeah, it was missing the big final act, I think.
Yeah. I think that it was nicely peppered with action. This is to my Fight Against Evil 2, the Chinese DTV that I talked about earlier, which had great action, but in very short burst at one end. This, it's almost like if you took the timeline from the last movie, which starts with someone wielding a knife in like a newsagent's, him turning up, going, "Don't be a twat about this," and then the guy going, "Oh, I'll stab you," and then him Hulk smashing him. It starts with almost the exact same scene.
Yeah,
of just
totally.
like a car prang in the road, and some big sort of wide boys giving it all that. Him turning up and being like, "Don't be a cheeky little you know," and then them going, "Oh yeah, what are you going to do about it?" And him just belting them, and you're like, okay, great, we know what we're in for.
It even starts in the same way. The first time you see Donnelly, it's behind his head as he's walking into
cowboy
it.
entrance,
cowboy exit finishes the same way. Donnelly walking off into the sunset.
Yeah,
he's always walking home at the end of one of these things. He never gets an Uber
because he spends all his money treating all his pals, doesn't he?
They all have a big meal at the end.
That's it.
He
doesn't get paid enough money as a detective.
We got to be walking home again, lads. All right, see you later. So no, it seems there's tropes in it as well. But
my point was that it's neatly the plot is not as propulsive.
Yeah,
but there is a action beat probably every 15 minutes that keeps you in. Whereas Fight Against Evil 2, the plot is not particularly interesting. So you really, unless you're a super nerdy fan of the genre, points itself, you have to put the work in to sit through 45 minutes to be like, God, is somebody thought this was an action movie? Whereas this, they're like, look, we know why you're here. We're going to make sure you get all that action. And also, like, you know, an elevated, I would say, to hark it back to the beekeeper, builder, painter, architect, the joining together parts are interesting enough.
Yeah, definitely. And they're funny as well.
Yes, and you have that extra special sauce of they have comedic beats that maybe you wouldn't expect.
No, and they land them really well. I think it's all very well nowadays to have comedic beats that are just Marvel quips, as I keep saying, in terms of like, oh, this will be funny. We'll undercut it with some quips. It's like, and that takes the power out of scenes so quickly. Whereas this, it does comedy, but it doesn't undercut it.
Yeah,
it's really well done. I'm such a fan of it.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yes, it isn't, as you say, that Marvel quippage, which has got quite prevalent. It's like, and there's another bit in the previous movie where there's like an interrogation scene, right? Where he has like a phone book or a book or it's anyway, somebody doesn't want to talk and he persuades them in that sort of NYPD Blue way. And in this one, there's almost a very similar scene where someone doesn't want to talk and then they just do a little bit of business that's sort of, it's almost like a sort of slapstick.
It is slapstick in
its nature.
Yeah,
right?
It's physical comedy. Yeah. It's almost silent movie, but it's really well done.
Yeah, it's quite funny, and it works. It lands.
Yeah,
in a way that I wouldn't. If anyone asked, I wouldn't call this an action comedy because I think that puts an expectation in your head of, I don't know, like bickering cops.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's maybe like an action comedy, like a Shane Black movie or something that is the action goes, but there are surprising comic beats in there.
Which you want comedy to be is ultimately surprising. Not to get too nerdy about it, but you want to be. Comedy comes from a reaction of something happening that you wouldn't expect to happen. I think I would call it an action comedy.
Okay.
I think I would sell it to my friends as
Would you?
Yeah.
Do you think if you showed this to someone else who'd never seen any of these movies, they would tonally be like, that guy just thonked someone to death in the first scene? Is this meant to be funny, or what's the...
I think I would cherry pick the friends that I showed it to, right?
Yeah.
You'd
You'll
get
it. You'll get it.
Have you ever seen anyone punch so hard that they shit themselves? Then this movie's for you.
I forgot about that.
That's my action replay moment.
We've segged into action replay. This seems the perfect time to do that. I had forgotten that moment.
It's flagged up at the start of the scene. It's so well done. There's a guy at the back complaining about stomach troubles. And you know that he's going to be punched so hard in the stomach, he's going to shit himself. And he does it. But it's not over-egged, pardon the pun. And it's not, it's just really well done. And he's punched hard in the stomach and fills his pants. That's my action replay moment.
When you bring up moments like that, I think maybe it is an action comedy, because I'd forgotten that moment. Yeah, where he goes, "Don't hit me in the stomach,
please,"
and then he tries to stab him, so he's gonna get hit. Yeah, you're right. That is amusing, and it isn't. You're right. It's not overplayed.
No,
it's not super played for laughs.
Yeah, but
it is funny. That's a great pick, actually. I was trying to, as I was saying earlier on, that there are enough scuffles in this that you might think, he's just going to punch 5 new people in the face. But they do add, to use the phrase I used with you earlier, action design.
Nice.
Right?
An action designer. Like a production designer, essentially a fight coordinator.
Yeah. Fight coordinator, but if it's a gunfight, you're not a fight coordinator.
That's
I suppose,
true,
right? So your action designer is all encompassing these days.
Mm-hmm.
There's some just lovely bits of action design business that stuck in my head, and this isn't necessarily the best one in the movie, but it's the one that I remember from watching it, where I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Where a guy ends up on a desk and he's like kneeling on the desk, and he punches him in the leg so hard that he slides backwards off the desk.
It's good.
As if he's sort of been hit by like a wrestling chair.
Yeah.
It's bits like that where you're like, how many different ways can there be to punch a person?
Lots.
This is the movie where you will find out.
And there's something quite mainstream appeal about Don Lee and the fact that he is non-lethal.
That's true, actually.
He doesn't stab people. He's quite Batman in his approach. He just punches them really hard. And knocks them out. So you can see the mainstream appeal of it, which is maybe why they've leaned into it a little bit. And that's something I like as well, that it's quite Batman-esque, that it's non-lethal in his approach to...
Yeah. If you love Batman, you are gonna. That's a tough tangent, I would say.
Do you like Batman? Yeah,
but I hadn't thought about it like that. He is non-lethal, isn't he? He's not John Wick.
No,
if John Wick is at the other end of the scale, where he is nothing but lethal.
Too lethal, if anything.
Too lethal. Then yes, he is a non-lethal weapon. Come to me next time you want to rename these movies for the international market, please. Non-Lethal Weapon 2, No Way Out 3. I think this feels like a perfect place to wrap this up. I really enjoyed it. I think this one gets a 4-star recommend from me.
4.5 for me.
Wow.
Yeah. Pushing it up there.
I feel good about that because you rated Silent Night a solid 1.5 stars less than my, what in retrospect seems generous rating now. Mm-hmm. So, and I still haven't seen The Outlaws.
I haven't seen The Outlaws as
well.
I
think before the Roundup 3, Outlaws 4 comes out, God, maybe we can reconvene next year.
Yes.
To do that.
One more Crime City.
Yeah, and maybe we should go back to where it all started, which I suspect might be even grittier.
I think so.
Yeah.
Less.
see how it's turned out. You could say the same about the Lethal Weapon franchise, though, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's true.
First one is about he's a suicidal cop, and by the fourth one, it's Joe Pesci being like, "They fuck you in the drive-thru," you know, like even though Jet Li is there to be pretty hard, it's turned into sort of a different animal, hasn't it?
Yeah, people harnessing this animal and trying to force it more into a mainstream zoo.
It's less of a wild goose,
More of a very tamed goose.
just a house goose.
Laying a golden egg.
Well, I don't know how we got there, but we both got there. Joe, thank you so much for, I want to say joining, but I've joined you in your office. This is an absolute dreamsicle. If people want to find you and all your stuff, where do you generally point them?
I am Joe Roberts.
.com.
Yes.
Love that, actually. I read an interesting, and I use interesting in quotes, tweet thread or article or something the other day that was like, stop having a link tree with 10 different links on it.
Yeah.
Just send someone to your website, which does, to be fair, have all those links on it if you want them.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I am Joe Roberts on everything, pretty much, because there's quite a few Joe Robertses. So I had
It's
to
a
go
bit
with-
John Smithy, isn't it, in a way?
It is.
Yeah.
I've had to go with Joseph Roberts for some stuff.
Have you?
Yeah. I think on IMDb I'm Joseph Roberts because there are 20, maybe even 30 Joe Robertses.
Good Lord. And
So
you don't
don't-
want to be like Joe Roberts brackets, Roman
7.
numeral 7.
Yeah. So I'm Joseph Roberts brackets Roman numeral 2.
Oh, there's already a
There's
Joseph.
Joseph Roberts.
Mother.
But don't go via IMDb.
No, never go via IMDb.
I am JoeRoberts.com.
Love it. If you want to find the podcast, and now I'm going to list all the different places having just said that, you can go to my website, simonfielder.com. That's the best place to start. But if you want to interact with specific pod things or action movie tropes, you can find us on Twitter at Dodge This Pod. Find me at simonfielder.com and go through that conduit to all of the other social media channels. Please, if you've enjoyed the pod, rate and review us on your favorite pod place. If you love the pod so much, also you can support us with Real Earth money. That's a link in the show notes. I'll see you on the next one. Joe, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's do a joint goodbye in the big echoey office.
Goodbye!